everybody to the Comedy Pop-Up Podcast. Our next live show is Friday, February 23rd at Echoes on Pico. That is our Mid-City LA show with Jeff Leach, Punky Johnson, Frank Castillo, and more. For more information on all of our live shows, please check out comedypopupla.com. All right, let's start the show.
Hey, what's up, party people? This is comedian Ron G, and welcome to another episode of the Comedy Pop-Up Podcast. Today, we have a great show. I have two personal friends of mine, and I'm really excited. I will honestly say they're two of the hardest working people I know in LA, man. So, first up, my man is, he's my own, the amazing, he's an acting coach. He's an on-set coach as well. He calls himself the story expert, which he really is. And he has a couple of projects right now in the works, including a book, which I can't wait to hear about and see. Ladies and gentlemen, show some love for Jeff Dockweiler, a.k.a. Coach Doc. What's up, sir?
Thank you, sir.
How you doing, man?
I'm very well. How are you?
Man, I'm awesome, dude. Also, I want to introduce somebody else who's really special to me. She's like family as well. Her resume is so long. I'm gonna give you like the first 12. And then we'll get through it. So she had a casting company and casted for some of the shows that probably changed your entire life. In Living Color, Baywatch, and a show called Dream On. She was also head of talent and development at ABC. She was a packaging agent at CAA, and now I know her to be like a business partner and owner of numerous production companies. Ladies and gentlemen, show some love for Cheryl Bayer.
Hey.
Why, thank you.
So I feel honored that both of y'all took the time out of y'all day to stop by and come by and talk to us, man. I appreciate it. Thank y'all, man.
Well, we appreciate you, Ron. I mean, you're a special person.
You know what? I'm learning. I'm trying to figure this thing out.
Don't blow him up too much.
I know, right? There you go. Doc always try to humble me, man. So if y'all listening, man, actually Doc is my personal acting coach, man. This dude has literally helped change my life as far as my acting career. When I first moved to LA, I knew nothing about acting. I knew I wanted to be a comedian, and I kind of fell into acting, and I'm like, he was the first person I ever seen, like, you know what I'm saying, to actually coach me through acting, man. So you have no idea. So I'm very grateful for you even being part of my life, man.
I appreciate it, man.
So, and one thing I really appreciate about you, man, you're always passionate, man. Like, I feel like you never sleep. Like, literally never sleep. I'm like, yo, I got a show. I won't get off until 11. Can you coach me at 11:30? And you be like, I got you, man. Come over.
Absolutely, and actually, every time I have a late night where I'm about to go to bed, I'm waiting for your call.
Hey!
I
appreciate it, man.
Calling. I know you're calling.
You know I'm calling, man. But you have such a really dope niche and dope niche and learning story, man. Like I've never seen anybody break down a script or a story. Like it'll take me at least 6 hours to go through a script and be like, okay, I'm still don't know the words, and you'll be like, no, all you have to do this. And while you're coaching me, you'll know all the lines after reading it through it the first time, which is ridiculous. Have you always had this gift, like even as a child, or it just happened over time?
Actually, I had a lot of trouble with reading. I was always somewhat dyslexic, somewhat ADD. I would never pay attention enough. And what ended up happening was when I got into this business, I learned very quickly that I had to change the way I read.
Yeah.
And what happens with most people is they read word by word.
Yeah.
Sentence by sentence. I'm looking for thought by thought.
Yeah.
And if I have to explain the thought to you, by the time I'm done explaining it to you, I already know it.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about Coach and Ron is the look of disgust when he goes, how did you see that?
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't see it. I've been reading it for 4
like,
hours.
I'm a comedian, man. I know funny. You can't tell me I don't know funny. That's how I make a living. But then you'll be like, why don't you do this? I'm like, dude, that's freaking brilliant.
Absolutely.
How'd you find that?
Well, and it's all simple. Every story is simple. Every story has already been told.
Yeah.
Everything you cast has been done over and over again. Everything you package now is just like the stuff you used to cast.
Yeah.
You know, and it's very much so all about just understanding the simple end of it. What's funny now though for me is looking at you doing this.
Yeah.
I can't wait to put a microphone in front of you the next time you work with me.
Oh yeah.
Because you talk fast, but when he's trying to act, he's trying to get to the wrong spot of it. He's trying to find the funny before he knows the story.
Right.
So
right.
now with this, this is Ron. I love this.
Oh, absolutely. I got to turn it up a couple notches.
That's right.
And so, Cheryl, I've known you for a long time, and I just felt like when you and I first met, it was like an instant connection. And you're one of the people, kind of like Doc, that I feel like you have a passion. Like I can see you light up when you talk about stuff you're working on. When Doc's talking about telling a story, like he turns into a whole nother person. You know what I'm saying? He'll be half asleep, and then once you pull open that iPad and start reading the script, he'll be like, "Oh, this is what you got to do and come to life." You're one of those same people. Have you always had a passion, like especially when you did casting, like? Did you always like? Because I know you mentioned being a matchmaker. Like you always like had that niche as a kid.
I just felt like ever since I was 6, I was able to see people and all of their like flaws and their fabulousness. And that when people were trying to categorize people, I'm like, well, we're all wired differently. And
Yeah.
I too was told I had dyslexia from an SAT question. If a train comes from Kentucky with apples and another train comes from, Ohio with oranges, when do they meet on a Tuesday when the moon was full? I was like, what the fuck do you want from me?
Yeah.
And I actually wrote, I didn't use the curse word, but I did write, what do you want from me on the test? And I was fortunate enough to have a woman say, she's got a sense of humor. She'll
Right.
survive.
Right.
And I wish I knew that woman to hug her today, because she told my parents.
She saw you clearly.
And it was like game changer.
Yeah.
And so for me, when I started in casting, it was like, okay, I see they're talking a certain language, whether it was a certain style of acting that they had learned. There's many different methods. I was like, I got to find myself into their language.
Mm-hmm.
So I took classes to be able to be a communicator. To me, it was an investment of part of my career. And in the same way of reading, I looked at the rhythms in a script, like music.
Mm-hmm.
Because rhythms of a conversation are rhythms in the script that are rhythms how they land a joke, like
Yeah.
have an awkward pause. So when people talk, it was like fascinating to me. Yeah, you have high energy, but when you also, when to also slow it
Oh,
down
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
like bring
Yeah.
up to crescendo. And then
Yeah.
I'm not a big basketball, but I think it's the alley-oop term that you
Yeah.
use.
Close
I
enough.
was a
Yeah.
basketball
Yeah.
player. That works
Yeah.
enough.
See the common ground? Yeah. He's
Common
a
ground.
basketball background.
I played college basketball, so
Oh,
yeah, so
yeah.
I was in that same world. But yes, I think I agree with exactly what you're talking about. Is that whole rhythm thing? That's what I talk about with thought by thought.
Yeah.
Because a thought might be 3 sentences, it might be 3 words.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't understand what you're saying, you can't say it. Actors so often look at a script and think, how do I say this line? I never worry about that, and I never worry about it with him.
Yeah.
And anybody that I work with, it's the same thing. It's finding that rhythm and finding that special voice of theirs that they can actually then share the story through their point of view, which is the only way they sound different and look different when you're in a casting session with 500 people who look the same, saying the same words.
Right.
The interesting thing, when I would have these big casting sessions, and a lot for like In Living Color, a lot for all of them, and they would be lined
We
up.
need to hear those stories too.
We need to hear the story.
But
Yeah.
the things that fascinated me was what I heard feedback was I took time with people.
Right.
Because if you take the pause to actually hear how they've interpreted it, and then find the window in that they can understand how to try it differently,
Right.
it was fascinating to see who all of a sudden I was having in callbacks that if I just had them going through, but because I was a little bit more present, took
Yeah.
a little bit
Right.
more pause,
Yeah.
and everybody knew they were actually going to get a fair shot
Yeah.
Right.
as opposed to just a shot.
Yeah.
I also became known as like somebody who actors in the same way felt like
Right.
she got my back.
Yeah,
Right.
she sees me clearly. It's almost like a defining moment, like how you mentioned the lady, you did the test and she saw it and you wrote an answer. And you're like, oh, she got a sense of humor. It's a defining moment when you see somebody actually care enough about you and you're not just a number to
Right.
come in. Do you have an acting background as well? Because I noticed a lot of really good directors and casting people have acting backgrounds as well. Do you have a little acting background as well?
Well, because I did take classes to become a better casting director.
Yeah.
I remember when I was casting a pilot and that was Sam Kinison was the star.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I had to play opposite people as Sam Kinison.
Mm-hmm.
The president of the network at the time was Warren Littlefield, and he turned to me and he goes, well, in case something happens to him, we have Cheryl.
Right,
and I thought to
right.
myself, that's very kind, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
He's a very specific character, so you can't
No.
play around with Sam Kinison.
You can't play no.
Right.
See, I got to do the exact opposite. One of the first jobs I got as an acting coach was I got hired to be the on-set coach for all my children. So I was coaching 31 of the 35 actors on the show, doing 600 pages a week because we were shooting 120 a day.
Oh,
Yeah.
And I spent most of my day in dressing rooms with the guys all the ladies are into, playing the woman on the other side of the love scene,
Hilarious,
helping
yeah.
them prep for their scenes.
Yeah. And I had to figure that out too. When I first met you, like, I'm being from the South, my dad's super macho. You know what I'm saying? You don't really look no other man in the eyes unless you like shaking their hand or about to fight.
Yeah.
And so we doing scenes where I'm like, I have to talk to you and tell you how much I love you, pause. And I'm like, I never had to do that. So it was a weird dynamic where I had to learn myself and while you were teaching me at the same time. So it's
Right.
kind of interesting to see it all unfold.
It's been a lot of fun, but it is awkward for me too, just
Oh,
so
yeah.
you know.
Oh, I'm glad it's out for you too. Yeah. Now I will look at you and I'll tell you I love you in
I
the scene.
know.
I'll do that.
Well, you mean it now too. So
I
it's
mean,
okay.
yeah.
I also think because, and it's interesting that you know, that's how you know story so well,
Right.
and also how it inspired you to write is
Right.
by being an acting coach. Because the thing that I am the basis of as I developed, whether it was at Fox where I did Malcolm in the Middle or
Right.
that '70s show, or whether it was where I did, Roseanne and Home Improvement, it was like, who are these characters? Where
Right.
do they actually come from? Like, they have a legacy behind them.
Absolutely.
And then where are they in the birth order? How does it inform how they, like, look at how people receive them at the dinner table, so
Yeah,
to speak?
right.
Because if you were third in line at the dinner table or you were only child at the dinner table, it's totally different.
Right.
And all of that gives texture to a character that now we know a little bit more.
Uh-huh.
So as developing characters and stories and, like, lives that have to
Right.
exist,
Yeah.
that, that's where it all, like, jams up. And I say, like, when I said take a pause and be present, I was talking about the other day how somebody can walk down the same street and they don't see jack shit as
Right.
they're moving through the street.
Yeah.
Excuse me that I'm using.
We got a button. We'll figure it
Okay.
out. Don't worry about it.
So we are supposed to be watching our language.
It's okay. No, it's,
Well, I like
comedy
to
pop up.
Okay.
Good.
But and then you can actually take that same walk down the street, and I'm like talking on Ventura Boulevard, and it's a bank building, and there's these gorgeous flowers that were blooming.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, the flowers. And then all of a sudden, randomly, I almost got hit by a hummingbird, and I'm like, now the woman who was like talking in a different language, screaming to her husband on the phone, coming with like lots of jewelry, next to me, had no idea what she was missing.
Right.
You know.
Absolutely.
So-
And that's another part of like Hollywood, man. Like you're dope at what you do because you're always present. Like period. Like even when I talk to you and I say stuff and like you recited something that I said to you earlier. I'm like, you listen to me? Like it's pretty awesome. But that's who you are as a person. Like just like you, Doc, you notice everything I say. You notice my nuances and all those things, which actually make me better because you're present and pay attention. How do you both stay present with all this noise that goes on in Hollywood?
For me, the noise is so transparent that it's boring.
Right.
And so I just, like in any meeting I'm in, I'm trying to stay focused on what we're here for, what we want to accomplish, and let's do the right thing for all the people in the room. Like, because if you do the right thing instead of like, and everybody shares, and it's not like I want to hold on to this, it's like sharing is caring, and everything tastes better.
Right.
Every experience is better.
Yeah.
And
Potluck.
So potluck love.
There you
man.
go. So that potluck love.
Okay, and a great script and a great show actually comes from the yes and.
Right.
To like just improve the idea, as long as we don't lose the integrity of the vision,
Right.
let's yes and it. And so not having an ego about where that great idea comes from and giving that person props, so and so threw that in, and what an amazing, empowers everybody to want to
Yeah.
have fun with you.
And I've seen you do that because we've been in pitch meetings together, and I've saw you like come alive, but still know how to share and throw it to someone when it's their time to get the ball, which is really cool. Like, have you always been that kind of person? Like, was that your family household? Like, is that how you learn in your family and then learn how to give and take? Because like even doing radio, like there's a person that does radio and they talk over people the whole time, trying, and then the good radio people, they'll throw it to a person and take it back when the
flow.
wave change. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're really good at that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I feel like in order to set everybody up for success, I like to have a little pre-game meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
To say
We've had those very
yeah,
intense.
Right, and talk about like who's going to set the table
Yeah.
for the meeting, so to speak. This is the part that you're strong at. This is where you add flavor, and like really, let's make the recipe like the most delicious recipe, so that
Yeah.
everybody goes. And especially when you're talking about something new, like. When I did Malcolm in the Middle, it was the first single-camera comedy show
Right.
after Dream On that had sex, and it was on primetime television.
Yeah.
Okay, and I was like, odd things are going to happen in this, but let's allow the space for people to feel uncomfortable. Like I had to talk to the research department because research goes with like a group of people that are random, and most people are afraid of change.
Right.
Yeah.
So how, in that, with throwing it around the room, it helps people hear other voices speak on the same subject positively.
Yeah.
And that is, and then it's supported instead of when you hear something unknown or you don't know where you're going in.
Yeah.
Right? People make a funny face
Yeah.
first when they first walk in. Where am I? It's
Yeah.
strange. Second time,
Do they
it's
make
like,
that face? That specific face?
kinda.
Okay.
It's animated, that's for sure.
And then
Where's this?
Right, but then the next time they're like, I think I've been here, more pondering.
Yeah.
And the third time, most people think they're an expert. Oh
Right.
yeah, I've been here. This place is
Yeah.
fabulous.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So, so it's knowing that sometimes that first place
Yeah.
is the unknown of I don't know what this story is. I
Yeah.
don't know who this guy is. How do you make everybody the Greek chorus
Yeah.
Right.
to hum?
Well, and I always operate on that same question that you had. I always operate on the idea that for every actor, every take is a chance to make the story better, and it is a collaborative art. It's not a singular art at all.
Absolutely.
Oftentimes, it's a collaborative business, not much art whatsoever.
Right.
You know, but for that, if you go in with every opportunity to do that, then what you're doing is you're looking for a new way to make it better. You're looking for a new way to add something. So as a good actor, you're always a good listener. And if you're a good writer, you're observant and you're watching everyone. Well, you bring all that together, and everybody, like what you were talking about with are you where are you in the family, and where are you as far as point of view goes with every single situation that comes up. All of us have a different point of view, and all of us have a different way to find it. And if your goal is to find the next best thing in it, then by the end of it, every take will be different, but it will continue to escalate to a better place until we have everybody's pure voice
Right.
and the best version of the story.
Right. And I don't know if you guys know this, but both of you are like the coach that changed everybody's life. Because if you play sports, there's always like one coach that really impacted your life, particularly with you, Doc. For me, you have this, I don't know if y'all know, but like y'all have changed lives to the point where you love your job so much, I don't think you realize the impact of it later on. Like, I remember when I first came to you, I didn't know anything about acting. I was breathing funny, trying stuff, and I had no clue about acting. Now it's like I'm on the biggest TV show on HBO, and I won an Emmy and all this other cool stuff, and you're part of it. Do you get a chance to like really sit back and look like I had something to do with this person's success, or you like it's just another day at work?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. With
Yeah.
people like you, who's a part of my life, and,
Yeah.
and even though you're my client, you're also my friend.
Yeah.
You share with me what goes on. What often happens to coaches is we get left in the dust. Somebody
Yeah.
books a job and no one tells us anymore. And they're thanking their agent on the podium, but they're not thanking us.
Yeah.
But for me, I don't do it to get the credit. And I think anybody who's successful at helping people is that way.
Yeah.
You're there doing what you love. And I didn't even plan on being a coach. I was asked to coach 4 actors one week when my coach wasn't available to do it, and all 4 booked jobs. So then all of a sudden people started coming to me.
Right.
And you were like my 5th or 6th client.
Really?
Yeah.
Had no clue.
Yeah, and you came along not knowing anything, and you booked that movie that you got.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was fun because I moved here just wanting to be a part of this business. I thought at first just acting because that's all I knew of. I was from Atlanta and several
Hey.
other places,
All right.
but Texas, Oklahoma, and then moved to Georgia before Atlanta was what Atlanta is now, and there was
Yeah.
no opportunity. So I came here trying to find my way in, and I've always wanted to create my own stuff. Excuse me. So every single bit of what I'm doing is to get to where I am today.
Yeah.
And within that, it's always a matter of helping those around you to help them get where they want to get.
Yeah.
Usually you'll get where you want to go to.
Yeah. And Cheryl, you doing casting for A Living Color? Like, do you know the impact on the culture that has? Like, you have any idea? Like, that's the standard for all sketch shows, period. Like, if any sketch show is ever created, the standard is In Living Color, and you were part of history like that. Do you think about the weight of that, or it's just another day at work? It was a
I
Tuesday.
just think of like the great experience, and I think because the openness I had, like, and I continue to have, and be curious. It was a time where I still am a short Jewish white woman who.
You're still there?
You still are?
Well, this moment, hold on. Here.
She's black.
But because I'm able to see people for who they are and
Yeah.
their talent for what they were, that I was going to places that most people, they looked at me as I would walk in, like, what are you doing here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Like, this ain't your place. And because at that time, it was more like that. And then literally within 5 minutes, they're like, come over here, because I have an open heart and an open mind. And they saw what you give out, you will receive.
Yeah.
And I do it without expectation. Like when you were saying about thank you, I do what I do because I want to share.
Yeah.
And if somebody says thank you or they remember, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's just the extra mile.
Yeah.
Right.
But seeing somebody grow, just regardless, is quite spectacular.
Man.
On my 30th birthday, I was at dinner with my family, and Adam Sandler came up to my family's table and said, "Do you know how much this woman has done?" And I just thought, like, those kind of things, when you have that, you know, it was like, you know, your father's like, where's your name on this when you're an executive?
right.
And you're like, I'm an executive. This doesn't mean you get your name on it. you know?
Yeah.
And they don't see you.
Right.
And I'm like, but, you know, that kind of thing is nice. However, I do it because I just love it.
Yeah.
And I love finding the talented people, even if they're raw, and helping that blossom.
Yeah.
And saying, yes, you can, and push them in uncomfortable places.
Mm-hmm.
And I've even watched how I've made people feel a little uncomfortable and then circle back, and then they realize, oh, this is what. Okay, I got you. You're rare more than common.
Right.
You know?
Well, that's what I was going to say is on the casting end, I mean, I see why you were successful, because so often on my end, I'm trying to prep people for the casting directors that aren't like you, because it's so quick, and especially in today's world where everything's put on video and you've got to capture them in that first moment.
I think that's horrible, by the way.
I do as well, because you need to meet them.
Yeah.
You need to get to know people because you're making a decision to work with them for the,
And feel
for the
the
next
energy
5
too,
years.
yeah.
Human connection is being lost so much.
So
in
much
this.
so. And I have a client who I've been working with since he was 10. I've coached him for everything he's ever done. He just got his own show on Netflix. And I'm so proud of him. He's 15 years old. It's not officially announced, so I can't say what it is. But that kid has worked so hard every single day to get what he wants and to get into a room and to get an opportunity. And so often, ups and downs wise, you never know what you're going to get when you walk in that room, and it is a personal experience. And he signed you sign when you go into a pilot, as you know, you sign a multi-year contract, whether it's 5, whether it's 7 years. Well, if you're not meeting them in the room, how do you know who they are? And by the final audition, yes, you're meeting them in the room, but what about the first group?
Right.
You know, it's a tough thing because we're trying to add so much to open it up to everyone, but you do want to meet that person and know that their point of view is what's going to make this show great at some point.
Yeah. And one thing I really admire you might not even know this, but I've looked at your body of work, and everything you've done has been dramatically different. Like from Roseanne to Living Color to we worked on that thing with there was the talking animals, the talking dog or whatever, and then there was the lizard thing, that really cool lizard thing, and then
Cranky
you're doing
Carl and and Bad
Right.
Dogs Club.
Right.
Well, the thing that I love to do is I love to look at pushing the envelope for what people haven't seen. Like
Right.
when you said there are age-old stories,
Right.
but there's points of view
Right.
and new ways of telling stories.
Right.
That I'm not afraid,
Yeah.
and because I've been successful at, showing you can do, like for that 70s show, we did 360 camera work that alluded to them smoking pot. Think about it. It was a sitcom that was about parents and their kids.
Right.
It was all the kids were doing underage illegal stuff, okay? Smoking pot, stealing their parents'
it's not
car.
illegal anymore.
I know. Smoking pot, underage sex, stealing
Right.
their parents' car, and having keg parties.
Yeah.
Okay, and you have to do it in a way that lands a sense of humor, a dignity and grace, and an integrity that can have people still have a conversation about
Yeah.
it and talk about the truth.
Right.
Yeah.
And we did 360. We used the 360 camera. That had never been done before. When we were alluding to that, they're passing the bong around.
Yeah.
Right.
So I rather not say no. I rather when somebody says no to me, I go, ha ha ha,
Right.
let me
Right,
show
right.
you.
Yeah.
Okay, so like when it was Cranky Carl with the viral animal clip show, I met this guy. He had this chameleon. He looked like an old Archie Bunker curmudgeon. I said, this animal is hysterical. We should have him that he gets no respect. We set up like miniature dollhouse furniture for his sets.
Right.
So
Yeah.
he had like a talk show set. He had an ESPN Sports Center set. He had like a kitchen set, like the Today Show. He had like a Masterpiece Theater living room, and any viral animal clip that had existed. There are ones that show animals with sports, with food, with everything.
Yeah.
So he was showing all these viral animal clips, and he's like, I get no respect. This cat, like in a bowl of cereal, like for real, I can do many things. Change color with my tongue.
Yeah.
So like, and we used Eddie Pepitone. And
I know Eddie Pepitone.
Yeah, he was the voice, and Susie McDonald wrote for us, and it was spectacular.
Yeah.
And it's just knowing, and she wrote for Letterman,
Yeah.
and she's written for Chris Rock stuff. And so, you know, it's knowing how to put the pieces together and also trying funny things like what's out there. How can we show, like, this is ridiculous?
Yeah, and so another funny thing, too, is, like, both of you symbolize very specific parts of my life. Like, you specifically helped me with story, like me trying to learn how to figure out what's the story being told in this. And then also, I don't know if you noticed or not, but you gave me my first writing job doing punch-ups. And last year I won an Emmy. Well, basically, I'm doing punch-ups and making the show funny. And it's like, you were a part of that. Because I remember being that we had, it was like
ABC,
5.
yeah, we did an ABC series that was.
It was like
based
5
on a
different
book.
comics, and we were all trying to help and find the funny. And then the one particular idea I had where we are going to turn into a cartoon, I thought was so cool. And it's like, I felt like you saw me clearly, and like I threw this idea out during this pitch meeting. We were just trying to, you know, find funny, and you like, that's another great idea. We think we should turn that into a cartoon. And I'm like, that's Hollywood? You can do that? Like, I didn't even know. Like, me being from the South, and I didn't know dreams are real until you got here. So you were actually the first person to give me a job doing punch-ups, you know, which is really cool.
That still is. Tell them what it's called. Do you remember?
Yeah, I wanted to sit on it. I don't want to tell nobody yet.
Okay.
Because I still think it has legs to it.
I do too.
Like, especially now, like
Yeah.
the show has legs to it.
Yeah,
And
big
it's
time.
really cool, but I would love to see it come to life.
Right. Well, that's how it starts. Like most of the time, okay, at home, my honey goes, when I say I have an idea, he's like, oh my God, could you put it on the list? Because like anytime I go to the bathroom to pee or take a shower, it's for sure. And I pee a lot.
Right.
So like I have a lot.
We noticed that.
1 second, guys. That's so cool.
It's funny. I have a list on my iPhone of notes that started just with I had ideas for sketches or for movies or whatever, and I think the number is now around 237 different ideas for TV shows, movies, punchlines for jokes, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And one thing I did want to circle back with what you were saying about each story being unique. That was one of the best lessons I learned from working for Stephen J. Cannell. Was I pitched him my first idea for a script, and I told him how there was a great business idea, and there were so many good things with it. He said, "Stop, just stop." I said, "What?" He goes, "Pitch the characters to me, because the characters are the thing that we're going to come back for nonstop, and it is always very similar base stories about a family or whatever it might be, but it's the characters and their specific point of views going through it that make every show different."
Well, that's to my point is you have to look at it like it's a privilege. You're in somebody's home, whether it's on television or digital. They're in their underwear, and they're emotionally connecting to the characters.
Right.
Okay, so it's an invitation to their private space, and they're emotionally connecting to you. And then the situations that occur, if they have universal connection or who they are and how, like, where they're stuck or where they want to go relates to, like, people who either you are individually or people you know.
Yeah.
That is the connective tissue.
Yeah.
So when people say high concept, I've seen all these high concept shows, and they didn't have, like, the soul of who these characters
the heart,
were. And so it was like, okay, so you're in a space floating in water. You're like jumping through crystals, all of that. But who are you?
Who are you? Yeah, absolutely.
Who is that guy?
Speaking
the
of
end,
who
they're all
are
the
you,
same.
Speaking of who are you, both of y'all work really, really hard. Like, Doc, I think you don't sleep at all. Like, I think I've never called you and you're like, hey, I'm just waking up. Like, never. It could be 3 in the morning. Hey, man, just reading some scripts. Like, that's how you are, man. When do you have time to live, or what do you do when you're not? Actually, I feel like your whole life is making other people's lives better. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love comedy enough, and I hang out in the comedy club so much. I was like, yo, I got to start living because I'm not going to have any material because I'm always in the comedy club. But when do you live, and what do you like to do when you're not changing lives?
For the most part right now, I don't live that much.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Because what I have is, again, I have the goals of the people that I work with as far as the actors go, and then I have my goals for the shows and the movies that I'm creating on top of it. But when I do take a break, I love playing golf. It's an exit from everything else. I
Yeah.
can turn my phone off. I can be in a beautiful location, forget I'm in the city, and go do that. But what usually ends up happening is I end up working in my head somewhere because I'm writing something in my head to try to work it together. But I think it is important to get that break, but I don't get that much. And I think it's a privilege to not have that much free time because it means I'm in demand and it means that I'm getting to get closer and closer to what I want along with what everybody I work with does.
Yeah, because when those phone calls stop happening, I'm sure that's another thing you got to deal with when it comes to this business. So that being said, how do you handle the ups and downs of this business? Because most people, like Hollywood, you have a really good month or a really good season and then no calls. Like, how do you sustain when those moments are not happening?
Well, I do a lot of self-creating, and then setting stuff up. So I'm a lot of self-generated stuff.
Yeah.
The thing I would say is, for me, if you don't live life, you can't share experience and strength and knowledge in that. And so, and it's interesting. I was at Tornante, which is Michael Eisner's company, the other day, and my friend runs it, who used to work with me at Fox, and she said to me, her assistant was like, wait, you did this and then you did that and then you get all this stuff done. And I'm like, well, because I know how to carve out for me. Like, if it's an hour bike ride, just in between, and just listening to either a meditation while I'm bike riding and the sun is setting and then I can come back and take a pause, or it's for 36 hours, wake up on Saturday morning and take my Jeep and go out to someplace like Death Valley, which is big sky and
Where's Death Valley?
Oh my God, it's gorgeous.
In my head, it's Clemson.
No, it's
it's a big stadium where the Clemson Tigers play football.
Where the Clemson Tigers play football at.
It's 90 minutes away, and it's a national park that has waterfalls, sand dunes, red rock canyons, all within a matter of moments. And so hike and drinking water from the purest waterfall, amazing. And climbing the sand dunes and you look like you're in the Sahara Desert, amazing. And so, and connecting with the person you're with, and just being there.
Having some sand in your crack when you're done.
Oh.
I get what you're saying. I see what you're doing.
Shower,
Cheryl, I see what you're doing.
And we do.
But then it adds to the ideas that come up.
Absolutely. Well, and we do live in such a beautiful place. One of the quick things I'll do is I'll just drive up to PCH all the way up to Ventura and back.
Yeah.
And by the time you do
is that like Oxnard-ish over there?
You don't get quite to Oxnard. I get to the border where Neptune's Net is, and you turn around and you come back.
Yeah.
But just driving up, playing music, not answering your phone, enjoying the views is a beautiful thing that we do have.
Yeah.
As long as you remember to take advantage of it, or a quick hike in Runyon Canyon or something like that, something to get out where people can't get to you. But to answer the question about what do you do when you're not getting the success, I push everybody, and this, I push everybody I work with to create your own stuff, because you can't control when they're going to be casting African American 30-year-olds or or the white 12-year-old. You don't know what's happening as far as that goes, and you can't control that unless you're creating. Yeah. So you take advantage of the opportunities that are in front of you, and outside of that, you control what you can control.
Yeah, and that's why I love comedy. No matter what, I'm on this stage.
Yes.
Even if it slows down with the acting and auditions, I'm on the stage trying to work on myself and work on the next concept.
I love that. Well, and that's the beauty of you, too, is that you keep it going.
Yeah.
You don't get lazy that way. You go, okay, I can do this right now, and I can do that right now. And, when we first met also from that one idea, we started talking about relationships. And really how that started to hone an angle on even how you do your comedy.
Right.
And really how you have this strong niche in your storytelling.
Yeah.
And your comedy is based on how you look at the perspective of relationships.
Absolutely.
Being from where you're from.
And I've gotten jobs doing relationship panels based off my set. People are like, man, you got good advice. I say a lot of real stuff that pastors can't say, relationship experts can't really say, and I can say it because I'm silly, but I still have this. We all study people. Yeah, we all study people for a living. So for me, my life experience and the type of people I meet, I'm like, oh, you're this type. I can create you and turn that on stage. But I got this really dope joke I'm working on now about the committee, because every woman has a committee, which is a group of women who screen out the man that you're with. You know what I'm saying? And it's like the joke is so specific. Like, women get quiet when I'm doing the joke because it's so true and real. They're like, how do you know all that? I'm
That's when you know you're on it.
Oh, man, they get quiet. And it's so funny, but it's a really dope joke. But again, we all study people for a living, and in our own perspective things, and those things actually make us money and make us great too.
Absolutely. Well, I just had I teach a class monthly in Houston, Texas, and the grandfather of one of my students there came and met me this weekend, and he's a psychotherapist.
Yeah.
And within 10 minutes, he was like, you know more than I know on this.
Right. Of course. Of course.
I'm like, yeah, I've done over 100,000 case studies at this point.
Of course, absolutely, man. Which is really dope. And then you and I, when we talk about scripts and stuff like that, it's on one level, but then we start talking about our own relationship.
Of course.
Stuff, then it goes to a whole nother level. But you and I get
course.
people, and we understand human behavior, which is really dope too.
Absolutely, and sure, this is how I teach too. I teach by telling stories, and I continue to find a story until it fits you. So the more I know you, the more I can tell you a story that will fit your understanding of this story, so we can tell the best version of it.
Yeah,
So
and one
it
thing,
makes it fun.
And one thing, another thing I love about you as well, man. We're doing the same. You like, this is a part where you can Ron G it up.
Yeah, I
like
always
you know me well enough, and you know my sense of humor. You like, hey, just Ron G it up on that part.
That's
right
the
there.
new term.
I'm so serious. So when I go into audition, I'm like, I'm about to Ron G it up.
So
this
that's
part.
a new hashtag. Hashtag Ron G it up.
Hashtag Ron G it up. Because it's really dope, man. Because even when you watch, like, all my favorite comedians, I think I had an interview with, I forgot the guy was, but he was telling me every time you see your favorite comedian in a movie, there's always a moment where they do what they do.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy, he talks fast. Kevin Hart talks fast. You know, tries to be a tough guy. Martin, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yep,
Or
absolutely.
It's just like all your favorite comedians have their certain thing they do. With Chris Tucker, you know what he's about to do when he get upset. You can't wait for it to happen. And you watch that movie because of that. But like when you tell me Ron G up, in my head, I'm like, oh, when I start doing movies, that's what they're going to like
Absolutely.
buy the ticket for.
And that's where you get to put your stamp on it. But if you
Yeah.
don't know the story first, then you can't put your stamp.
Yeah.
You know, but it's you always want to find that spot, and you have your specific thing that you do.
Yeah.
And so there's no reason not to find that in it.
Oh, totally.
Ron G it up. My girl be like, Ron, can you not Ron G it up right now? Can you just sit down? Sit down somewhere. Is it very tough as well? Because I know just being in this business, we all work so hard and we're all basically donating our lives to help other people. Mm-hmm. Is it hard, like finding a person too that can understand that? Because with me specifically, when I travel a lot, I need my space to unplug when I come back home. Or, you know, when I have a bad day, everybody can't handle my highs and lows. So it takes a special type of person to do that. Is it hard finding a person in LA with, you know, the type of careers that you all have?
For me, 100%.
Yeah.
Because again, there's a personal connection, number one, that I have to be available to all the actors who need me.
Yeah.
And then there's a time where I need to be alone and do my thing to create what I'm creating. Mm-hmm. So to understand that it's not about you on the other side, which is what I run into so many times as far as the problems go.
Yeah.
For me, I've met a lot of good girls. I've dated several very good girls. Mm-hmm. But the thing that ends up happening for me, unfortunately, is you start having that same conversation where this isn't about you, and I know I want to give you time, just give me a minute, or you know, allow me that opportunity or be supportive. And it's hard because we do work in a business where most people you work with are in this business, and they're trying to pursue their thing too.
I just thought of somebody to introduce you.
Hey!
I saw your wheels turning.
Well, she's a pediatric doctor.
Hey.
She's got her own thing.
She got health insurance
whole.
too. What?
She's whole. She's adventurous. She's smart and funny and like got that down. But she's got her own jam. Like she's just looking like, you know, it's not needy of you in that way that you're talking about. A needy kind of girl. Right. You know, she's like, I'll show up, you show up. When we show up together, let's have a good time.
I like that.
And be supportive of each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you know, that's the key for like respecting the space that you need. And what I find interesting is men look for the space that they need. How often do they look at, well, so do the women need the space that they need, and then respectfully go, how can we like support each other to dance like that?
Yeah.
And I think as I've known you and evolving in this relationship especially, but before we were talking about like, you know, how do you really like, you have to allow the space, and you've become this you've always been a respectful man.
Thank you.
But you've become a respectful man that you want to identify. This is how I want to be, and it will ooze the energy in a way to other people, you know, and not to show other people, but because it feels good when it feels right to you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And it's so much better when you have someone there with you. And it takes that whole thing of enjoying every moment that you have. And it was actually a phrase I used to use with my last girlfriend that didn't necessarily go over so well.
Yeah.
But it takes also, I think we live in a town that's full of insecurities because it's so difficult and because you're being judged so often. And so you really do need someone who is very confident if you're going to be successful in this business and have someone going on that journey with you.
Yeah. Okay, coaching 11 o'clock at night. Really? We
Yes.
coaching right now?
Yeah. Who's
you coaching
calling
a client? Really?
Who's texting you at midnight?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's a client.
Like, I'm
I'll
in
be
my
coaching
office
tomorrow.
right next door. Like, okay, well, leave the door open. Like, the door is open. Well, just, yeah. That's dope, man. Yeah, my girl, she's actually really awesome, man. She dopes, and I think the thing that made her special was she understood that, you know, sometimes I will be out late, but I always call and check in, and I always felt love when I came home. Wasn't no, like, you got it. I'm like, yo, you're not inexpensive. Like, I got to figure this thing out and make money. So you got to let me have, you know, my creative space to do what I got to do. But she's really awesome, man. So very happy about that.
Well, you have to be given respect, but you also have to earn that respect too.
Absolutely.
So, you got to be on it on both sides.
Absolutely. So listen, man, if you're listening right now, you listen to the Comedy Pop-Up Podcast. I have two of the most amazing people in the studio right now. My man, Jeff Dockweiler, who's a celebrity acting coach, and then also Cheryl Bayer, who's just an awesome, dynamic, fabulous woman who has literally changed the face of Hollywood. So listen, we are toward the tail end of the show, and we're about to do my favorite segment of the show.
What's that?
So I don't have, Paul, I need a name for it. Do I need a name for it, or just let it go? It's in development. Okay, cool. So this is part of the show where I'm going to ask you two questions. There's no right or wrong answer. You can answer however you want to. You answer long, short, but this is what it is, okay? So I'm going to ask you questions. And the thing about the Comedy Pop-Up is we don't small talk. So in that, I'm going to ask you these questions, and you can answer however. So first question, and you can answer whichever order. If you could do coffee with one person, dead or alive, who would it be?
Probably Maya Angelou.
Man, that's awesome. That's a great answer. Why did you say Maya Angelou?
Because I feel like she just was comfortable in her own skin and sharing her thoughts and not really caring about what the impact was going to be. Yeah. And then she got positive feedback, but it was a woman at a time at against all odds who was just doing her thing, and really there was a kindness. She asked herself if it was necessary, and was it true? Mm-hmm. And I think like those profound things, that's to me who I'd love to have a conversation with.
Way to set the table hard there for me.
Right.
Sorry.
That's all right. No, I would say just off the top of my head, I think David Letterman would be someone I'd like to sit down with. Yeah. David Letterman got a chance for so long to interview every single person that has had any impact. And looking at his new Netflix series where he's now interviewing people, and the first one was Barack Obama, next one's George Clooney. The Obama one was amazing. But looking at his point of view now, having had such a long career in the business that we're in, but also dealing with all the people who have influenced us, and looking at it and saying, now I want to do it a little different. I would love to understand like the intricate detail of everything that goes into that, because he's now getting another chance to hit the most important people to him. Yeah. And if you saw the Barack Obama interview, if you haven't, you should see it. He's very emotional about it as well. Yeah. As how President Obama affected him, but also how he's affected this entire lifestyle that we all have as well. Mm-hmm. So I think Dave would be very interesting to talk to for a coffee.
That's really dope, man. Who I feel like today? Who is somebody I would love to talk to? Probably my grandma, man. Like she's no longer with me, but I just remember her telling me I was special when I was a kid, and she gave me these like little silver dollar coins she had since she was a child, and I feel like she saw something in me, but I didn't know what she saw at the time, and now it's like I'm doing stand up, and I would love for her to see me perform. So I would love to just sit down and talk to her and tell me what she saw at the time. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
cool. It's very interesting on that, because my grandmother passed away almost 2 years ago now, and once they're gone, you think about what we could have talked about. And the last few conversations I had with her was her trying to fill me in on what it was like when she was a kid. Yeah. You know, and so it's just interesting to see that, especially in today's society where we have so many people that don't reflect. It's just what's in front of me and moving forward. Right.
And I was a teenager too, so like I was, you're a teenager, you're still feeling yourself, and you don't appreciate the people that's around you until later on the world shows you, kick you in the stomach, and then you come back home like, you know what, I appreciate you always cooking for me, Grandma, and making me cheese grits and sweet tea. I appreciate you so much.
Made me diabetic.
Yeah, right.
My grandparents
Sugar
were
and starch in
huge-
my system.
Yeah, my grandparents were a huge impact in my life.
Yeah.
Like my grandfather makes me look tall, and really was like this role model of like being curious. Is it the best? Strive for your best.
Yeah.
Only your personal best, really.
Mhm.
That's your like moniker is where you should go.
Yeah.
And you know, the meet people, be open. You'll learn a lot from all kinds of people.
Yeah.
Travel as much as you can. But like his way, he was just hilarious.
Yeah.
You know.
Which is where you probably got your sense of humor.
Yeah. And you said something really stuck with that stay curious thing. Like, I really like that phrase.
Which one?
Stay curious.
Oh, stay curious.
Like, just in life, like, just,
Right.
I feel like now I'm really enjoying my life. 'Cause there's so many things in my life that I'm doing now that I guess it's all making sense of why I went through it when I was younger. And now it's like coming together. The fact that I was a weird little kid and every time I saw something, I can do the voice of whoever I saw. And
Right.
then, you know, the people and the relationships. And even when I saw people, I saw them in a very specific lens that now when I do stand up, I bring it all to life. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't know as a kid. So to watch all that stuff come together, like, it's really exciting to see what your life has become, you know, when you make some of it and actually try and you stay curious and you ask questions. And, you know, even with my faith, I've always asked, like, some people go to church and, like, they don't ask questions. For me, being a Christian, I ask questions. And, like, the fact that I ask questions, like, I have more peace in my heart instead of this is how it is and this is how it is didn't work for where I was at the time. And now living in LA is a very specific type of place. You know what I'm saying? But me asking questions, I feel more peace in my heart about everything. Because I ask questions.
Well, we should all be works in progress.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Yeah.
I don't want to ever. One of the reasons why I wanted to work in this business, I was an athlete first, and the only other option I thought of was this because I want to work till the day I die.
Right.
I want to
Hey,
enjoy what I'm doing. I
retire
don't
for
want to
what?
retire. Yeah, I don't want to make $100 million and retire.
Retire for what? Yeah, stay curious. And the other thing I love is say what you mean what you say, and don't say it mean. And if you can really do that,
I never heard the last part.
Yeah, that's
to
good.
say what you mean. And
The don't say
No,
it
don't say it mean.
Yeah.
Don't say it mean.
Yeah.
It'll help you feel heard, okay, when you're trying to get your message across.
Yep.
Right.
And it'll help it keep it clear
Right.
that, like, you want to say something. So what is that thing that's really getting to you?
Right.
Or what's the message you really want to convey?
Right.
Yeah.
And if you do it diplomatically, you'll actually be heard.
Yeah.
A lot of times people get frustration out that message.
Well, and with that, I think one of the biggest problems is most people do not define what they want.
Right.
In every situation, we want something. And if we don't define it, we won't get it. And
Yeah.
so a lot of people won't define it, and then they get mad that they don't get it.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to communicate to someone, you shouldn't say it mean because you don't want to hurt them.
Right.
You don't want them closing up. You want them to actually be open to whatever it is you're trying to do with them.
Right.
Exactly. So wait, what's the other question?
Next question. I'm getting to it. Next question. What smell or sound reminds you of home?
Pancake batter.
Yeah?
Yep. My mom makes my grandmother that I mentioned, she made special buttermilk pancakes that were the smell of home. And I only go home for Christmas time now.
Yeah.
For the most part, going back to Atlanta. So when I get home, we have a group together. My mom is going to be making those pancakes. So that's the
Man.
smell. When I smell that, I'm like, I'm home.
Yeah. Extra butter.
Oh, yeah. Powdered
Oh, my goodness,
sugar,
yeah,
some
yeah.
syrup, whatever.
For me, there's two. One is this chicken that my mom made that was amazing, and you can smell it through the house, and you just knew dinner was gonna be good. And then there was a breakfast pasta that my grandma passed down, and it was like from during the Depression, so it was like eggs and cheese and ketchup in spaghetti. Okay, all mixed up.
But okay.
And but you know what? If I didn't tell you that there was ketchup with the eggs and the
Yeah.
cheese,
Right.
you wouldn't know.
I'm judging, but it probably tastes really good.
Oh, the house smells like
Yep.
home cooking, and everybody's like, the vermicelli's on, you
Yeah,
know? And
yeah.
like anybody who's ever been friends with myself, my sisters, my nieces and nephews, and my sons,
Yeah.
because it's been passed on as like one of those like, sleepover
Right.
family things.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, do you have that family pasta thing that you
Yeah,
do?
yeah.
So,
Good, man. And then last question. Hopefully it's not too hard.
Uh-oh.
What is the one thing you learned about yourself from your last relationship? Not about the person, about you.
About me.
About you.
Wow. That is a deep question.
Yes, it is. I don't small talk here. It's a Comedy Pop-Up Podcast. That's what we do.
Bye.
That's what we do.
What I learned about myself is one thing that I think came up when we were talking about the struggles that I had is not seeing the other person's point of view sometimes of your time. You know, with everything that I have going on, I ask so much from the person that's with me to understand, but you still have to understand their side, and you also have to continue to fight to learn more about them and not assume, because I'm a strong personality, so oftentimes the girls that date me to start doing all the things that I do.
Yeah.
And so what you find is like you think you like something about them that actually you've created rather than let them create their own.
That is very well said.
Thank
I
you.
think that that I've noticed the consistency, not just in men that I've dated, but other men that I've seen with, other women,
Right.
is, the girl wants to, I like that too. I
Right.
like that
Oh,
too.
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well, I always say that you don't meet the person you're dating until 6 months in.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think what's up?
Hey, family reunion.
He's
I was hoping y'all see each other. He's like, what are you doing here? He's like, what are you doing here?
So I noticed that like a lot of the times men, if you go, how are you? They don't really go, hey, how are you?
Right.
And so I just started
Men don't do that to you?
to other women. So
Okay,
for me, I started the thing like, you download and then I'll download. Like,
Right,
let's
right.
start up. If we start like a rhythm together, then it's like, how's your day? How's your day? Like go back and forth.
Yeah,
right?
right.
My last relationship, well, the thing I learned about that was he had a single son, and there was like triangulating weirdness with in his old, his ex and his son, and so I realized, you have to see if your baggage with the other person's baggage fit in the
Right.
same car.
Right.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
just like the analogy.
You
I
gotta check
use.
that.
You
gotta
have
check
to be able to problem
check-
solve
You gotta
together.
check that bag. It's not to carry on.
Check
Gotta
that.
carry on. We gotta check that.
Exactly. So there you go.
That's awesome, man. So listen, man, that's the end of the Comedy Pop-Up Podcast. Is there any final words to somebody who wants to move to LA, be an actor or acting coach from you, Doc?
Well, if they want to be an actor, call me because there's a lot of bad advice in town. So
Oh,
get a hold of
yeah.
me in a hurry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great coaches out there as well. But no, I think you should follow what you love. So if you're wanting to be a coach, you're wanting to be an actor, you're wanting to be a writer, you want to be a doctor, whatever it is
Yeah.
you want to be, do your research, figure out how to do it, figure out what you need, and then put in the work, because most people don't want to put in the work.
I appreciate that you say put in. I say you have to look at you are your own business.
Absolutely.
And invest in your own business, and knowing that it's not going to happen right away. You have to give yourself a true, fair time
Right.
to allow yourself to find the rhythm of this place, how it works,
Yeah.
become a part of it, and it's patience.
Yeah.
And while you're being patient, you're also working on yourself and your own stories
Right.
to generate your own material.
Yeah.
And please share experiences.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm sitting here laughing right. This is why. This is how I knew you were a really good acting coach. When you didn't do the improv and the zip zap zap.
Nope.
I'm taking acting class. And I've done an hour and a half of zip zap zap.
I don't do
And improv.
exercises. It's to me again. It's about understanding stories. So we need
Yeah.
to figure out stories to start. We need to figure out what it really is. And I'm not going to lie to you and make you pay me for hours of your time or of my time to do exercises.
You got to do
And-
the zip zap zap.
And
That's
there
how you know
are
you're a real actor.
exercises. There are exercises that help people, and if it does, great. If that's what works for you, it's just not the thing that I do. And it's like the best advice I was given when I first moved here was a producer had helped me get here, and the advice she gave me was very simple, which was she said it's going to take 2 years before you even know if you want to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because there's so much to learn and there's so much to figure out, and once you do, then you get to make the choice as to whether this is right for you. But you
Right.
got to put in the work. You got to understand everything. You got to educate yourself, and then pursue your goals and your dreams and make them real.
Absolutely. And what about you, Sherry? Anybody want to get behind the scenes or learn about casting or production? Any advice you want to give them as well?
I say put your name out there to anything you see anywhere online and just say, what can I do? How can I help?
Yeah.
Any entry-level position, I will do it because I want to learn. And the more you're open and you're not concerned about like money first,
Right.
but you're concerned about experience first,
Yeah.
I think you'll find yourself soaking in a lot of juicy material. Now, in the same way you said about 2 years, I used to say it takes a year to find your corner store, right? You're like your bodega,
Yeah.
right? Everybody needs their bodega.
You gotta have it.
Right?
Yeah. Like how you said it like that. You slap the chest.
And it takes time to find your sense of community here. And because this is such a spread out city, and just keep it focused on what's my one foot in front of the other.
Forward movement.
Yeah, forward
Absolutely.
movement.
Yeah, well, good. And then if there's anybody listening that wants to do stand-up, I say don't do it. Go to a career fair and figure your life out. This is the hardest profession on the entire planet, and it will ruin your self-esteem, and you'll be stressed out, and you'll be broke for a long time, and you have to answer to your parents. They want to know what's going on with this degree you got that you're not using. So go to a career fair. Don't do stand-up. I'm kind of serious, but I love my life, and I live a really great life, but doing stand-up is probably one of the hardest professions. There's no real class on it, and it's self-paced, and you'll learn a lot about yourself by doing it. But if you do want to do it, you should definitely tune into this podcast. Make sure you follow us on everything, CPU Podcast on everything, and I go by the name of Ron G. So before that being said, how can they find you, Doc and Cheryl, if they want to have follow-up questions?
I'm Cheryl at livingpopups.com. Living Pop-Ups is an entertainment mixed media platform. So that's us.
And one more time, how can they find you?
Cheryl at Living Pop-Ups.
Okay, all right.
And I'm Jeff Dockweiler. My website is Coach Doc,
Yeah.
CoachDock.com. Don't forget the K. Everybody does, and they tell me they sent me a message and that I didn't get it.
Yeah.
My email is the same with Gmail, CoachDoc@Gmail. I'm on Instagram at CoachDoc1.
Are you upgraded to Gmail now? That's what we doing?
I'm all over it. I didn't give you that one. You got the
at
old school
AOL
one.
at Yahoo.
You got the old school. And then if you want to be
Excuse
my
me?
real friend, be my friend on Venmo, because those people pay me.
Hey! That is awesome, man. So listen, man, you listen to the CPU Podcast. I'm comedian Ron G. You can follow me as well at comedian Ron G on everything. Comedian RONG. Also, every Sunday, I'm at the world famous Laugh Factory hosting Chocolate Sundays comedy show at 7 o'clock and 9:30. I'm an Emmy-winning writer-producer, and I have some really cool stuff coming out as well. And I'm shooting a Comedy Central special this year, so I'm pretty excited about that. I got a lot of... No claps? Okay, cool. We can do it in post. Anyway, thank you for joining us. And also, we do, if you're looking for comedy in L.A., we do comedy pop-up comedy shows, which is, what's the handle? ComedyPopUpLA.com. That's ComedyPopUpLA.com. Some really dope comedy shows, really great comedians, and we would love for you to come check us out. That being said, thank you very much for joining us, and we appreciate you. Yeah.